I'm introducing my good friend Tamara. So Tamara, what is your story? Who are you?
Well, first of all, everything Jess has just said is so true. Thank you everyone for coming today. It is such a pleasure to be here speaking to you guys, and Jess, as you said, thank you for the introduction, and it's true, we've been friends for so long, so it is just so inspiring to see you being able to put this event, and it's come to life, and it's just so inspiring for me to watch you be able to achieve something like this, because I know, and I'll speak about this in my story, we've sat together years ago talking about our goals and aspirations, which is amazing, and I'm going to talk about that to these guys, but it's true. Jess did come and ask me a few days ago to speak, and I nearly had a panic attack, because my two questions I said to her, my two questions were to her, when she said to me, can you speak? I'm like, can I still drink? And how long can I talk for? Because I can go on a tangent as well as to, which, again, these beautiful women here are just inspiring to me as well, so it's really nice to be able to share my story with you guys as well. So I'm here basically to chat to you guys today. My biggest thing is just to take you guys on a journey and share with you guys what I've been through, and instill with you guys today that you guys can achieve anything in the world. And that's something I really teach my TMF Slay Girls, which I'll touch to you guys about, my community, my tribe that I really am very grateful for. And I hope that's okay with you guys. Just put your hands up. Is that alright if I share with you guys that today? Can I see everyone's hands up? Thank you. And make sure you all have a drink with you guys too. So basically I'm going to be sharing you guys and talking to you guys about my story, and three amazing topics, which is embracing your hardships, putting yourself out there and taking a leap, and not holding back on your story. And obviously at the end of this big chat, I want to invite you guys on an experience as well, and an event that I want you all to be part of as well at the end. So, are you guys all ready for it? Are you guys all ready for it? 3 glasses in, that's what happens. So embracing your hardships. So, I come from a very broken family. That's how I'd like to start. And the biggest thing I really want to share is that I was very used to putting on a mask and putting on a face, because that's what Mum used to always say to me. She's like, don't let anyone know what you're going through, go to school every day, smile, be happy, and just hide everything that's going on. And that's what I was used to doing, and I was very good at it. I was actually not from Australia. I was born in Germany, and I moved to Australia when I was 4 years old, and my mum is from Brazil. She's shorter than me. She's a little Latina lady. She's very cute. I wish she came today, but at the same time I'm glad she's not here, because she'd be amongst you guys drinking and yelling things out. Very much like that. But that was I came to Australia when I was 4 years old, and the best way to explain what my life was like is I lived a gypsy life. My dad was a very big gambling addict, and we would live in a world where one minute we'd have money and the next we wouldn't. I lived growing up over 40 different houses, and I went to 6 different schools. And I'd one minute have my dad come home in a Mercedes-Benz, and then next he'd not have a car, so we'd have to walk to school. Or he'd have money, and then next minute I'd see him in my room trying to find money in my piggy bank. So that's what life was like. And I have this one distinct memory in my life where I was 12 years old, and I was coming home from school with my mum, and we were coming home to our house in West Bennet Hills at the time, and she had put her key into the lock, and she tried to open the door, and it wouldn't open. And so she's like, Tam, can you try your door and your key? And I was like, okay. And I was 12, I was trying to open the door, and I couldn't open it. So she rang my dad, and my dad then answered, and then her face just dropped. And then she turns to me and says, we can't get in. Your dad owes someone a lot of money, and that person has now taken our home away from us, and everything that was in that house as well. So at the age of 12, I lost my home, I lost everything in that house, and we were on the streets. And that was probably the first time in my life I'd experienced a massive loss. And it was also a big turning point in my life where I was like, I never want to ever go through that again, or my own family, ever. But anyway, growing up as well, because I was so good at putting on a face, I started to dabble into dancing and acting, and my mum saw that when I was a very young girl I was very good at dancing, so she put me to ballet school at the age of 3, and she also thought I was very good at acting. And when we lived in Australia, my mum barely spoke a word of English, and my dad, was never home, so my mum, whose third language was English, she couldn't teach us English. So my English teacher had said to my mum, your daughter has potential, but she can't speak shit English. So, you need to do something about it. So luckily enough, at the age of 8, we had a drama school opposite our house. And, I enrolled into like an acting school at the age of 8. And the way we were able to pay for that was my mum sewing, costumes for the dance school and feeding the cat. So that was helpful. And at the age of 8, I was taught how to speak English properly, how to speak in front of an audience, how to, be in the debating team. And I found a passion that I thought that was what my dream was at the age of 8. I was so adamant that I was going to become an actor, dancer, singer, performer. And that's what I thought my life was going to be. And that's how my journey began in the entertainment industry. But anyway, key points of, embracing your hardships. And this is something I really speak to my team of Slay Girls. So for those of you who don't know, I'm an online coach, and I have a tribe, and I've built this little community of girls where, we've come together, and I really hone in on embracing your hardships. And the first thing I teach the girls, is accept what you're going through. That's the first thing I want you guys to remember. And realize that your struggles are your strengths, and have the belief that you actually will get through it. And the last point is find your support network. So I think it's very important, and one of the biggest key points is that you actually have people in your life that support you. And that's something that I really teach my team of Slay Girls, is that you need to have each other there to support you guys and be part of a community, right? Like, be able to share stories as well. And that's something, when I started my 8-week challenge a few months ago, is that, every week that we check in, we spoke about, what we'd been through, and it was like a safe space. Because I was so used to not speaking about things, it was like, these girls have to have an opportunity to speak openly about what they're going through, and that's what I did in this challenge. Anyway, on to my next point. It's about putting yourself out there and taking a leap. So obviously, I've been through the things that I've gone through speaking about with my family, and, over the years, I developed a passion for dancing and acting. I enrolled into Macdonald College, I graduated, and then I went into performing arts school, which was 85, and that was a dance school. And I actually then also received the opportunity to be in an agent, and I travelled the world as a professional dancer, actor for so many years, and I was about 18 at that point. And still to that point, I was telling people you can be anything you can want to believe in if you achieve all those dreams you have, but I was still putting on that mask that I had envisioned my whole life growing up. I wasn't being true to myself. So over the years growing up, I'd become really severely was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And I also, at a very young age, was addicted to Stilnox, which is a very strong sleeping tablet as well. So, actually, I've got to ask everyone this question. Hands up, has anyone ever embarrassed themselves in front of a male specimen in their lives? Specimen. A male. Really? That's it? Well, I definitely have. So, this was definitely a massive turning point in my young adult life. I remember I was seeing this guy, and I'd had a couple of glasses of red wine, and I'd taken 2 Stilnoxes. It was great. And I said a few things, maybe a few more things you don't say to someone that you've been seeing for a week. Actually, I video called him. It wasn't a phone call. It was a video call. I said, I love you and I want to marry you. Anyway, that really ended quite quickly. Don't know why. And that was one of the point in my life at, I was 20, 21. I went to the doctors and like, you cannot serve me these Stilnoxes. And at that point, I'd gotten off the sleeping tablets and also made that decision to get off Zoloft, which is like something we take for depression and anxiety.
Can I ask why were you on Stilnox? What led you to take Stilnox?
That's a good question.
Sleeping tablets.
I struggled sleeping. I was a very hyperactive kid growing up, and I think I struggled a lot with anxiety, and I could never sleep at night. And I think with the traumatic events leading up to my adult life, I just couldn't sleep at night, and and it's a good question you ask this because it's a very interesting topic, because I went to the doctor and I just said I couldn't sleep well, and I was only 20 years old. And they're like, just take these sleeping tablets, you'll be fine. They're addictive, but just don't take them for too long.
And Stilnox, if no one knows, I'm a nurse, background in nursing. It's probably one of the strongest sleeping tablets you can take. It's not even mild. It's not even mild.
But the thing is, like they said, don't take it for too long. It was 2 years after that I was still taking Stilnox, and they didn't bother to veer me off it, or just, you know, give me a few prescriptions. That's another topic we'll go into. But yeah, that's a very good question, Jess. So yeah, where am I? So yeah, so I had that embarrassing moment, and you know, when I got off the medication, that's when I actually finally walked into a gym, which was a CrossFit gym, in 2010, and that's when my fitness journey began. So how did I start, I guess you could say, as well. So after that incident, I walked to a CrossFit gym, and I realised I fell in love with fitness as well. And hands up who has a friend in their life that they aspire to be like or are inspired by. Hands up. Absolutely amazing. That's beautiful. So obviously I walked into a CrossFit gym in 2010, and I dabbled into different types of training, powerlifting, CrossFit, boxing, and it wasn't until 2014. Some of you guys might know this girl. Her name's Ashley Freeman. You would know her. She used to be an Active Escapes trainer. She was a former professional dancer like myself as well, and she decided one day to do an IMBA bodybuilding competition, and I watched her wanting to compete, and she was eating all this amount of food, 2,500 calories. She was training weights every single day, and she looked amazing, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Here's me eating 1,100 calories, the dancer's life, cigarettes, coffee type of diet. And so I walked into a supplement shop, and I was like, I'm interested in competing. And the guy that was also coaching girls at the time was like, you actually have a physique to compete. And that was a massive, massive message for me to hear, because being in the dance world, it was all about being skinny and having, you know, not so much muscle, and being very small. And I was always going against my genetics, you know, being Brazilian and German, like I was naturally very muscly. And I had my agent always tell me, you need to do more Pilates, you need to eat less, you shouldn't even be training weights. So to hear that in 2014, that I have potential to be something great in a sport that I could do well in, was a massive thing for me. So I ended up, you know, competing in 2014. I also enrolled into AIF, which is the Australian Institute of Fitness. And for the very first time in my life, I also won the first ever A&B competition in 2014, and took home first place as a bikini model. And I have, thank you. Yeah, I deserve that. But the point of that message is that I was always the hardest working person in the room, but I was never the best at dancing. So when I won first place in a bodybuilding competition, I was like, I could do this forever. Not forever, but it was something that I found passion in. And so that's how my fitness journey began, you know, in 2014. And so forth. Then after that, I found another federation, which some of you guys may know, and I know there's a lot of WBFF bikini models in this room. In 2016, I decided that I wanted to further my career in the fitness industry. I, again, also had graduated from being in AIF. I'd become a personal trainer, and then in 2016, I made that decision to then start working towards being a bikini model and getting my pro card. So from 2016, I worked towards that, and then this is where Jess comes in. In 2017, Jess and I were at the Fitness Expo. I think you were in the car with me.
We were driving home.
You were driving home.
Yeah.
And this is how amazing, like, just putting that energy out there and working towards your goal in the universe. We said it out loud. I said to Jess, this is 2017. Jess, I'm going to go online. I'm going to be an online coach. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to become a pro one day. And she was there with me in the car driving home, and I was eating my meal in the car as I was driving. It was illegal then, whatever. Still do it to this day. But 2018, in October, I managed to get my pro card. against 54 girls on stage, and I came first place as well, and that was probably the biggest thing that I've ever achieved in my life to this date. So, thank you. And where I am today, which is obviously 2019, my biggest thing for this year has been about growth and healing, and building this TMF tribe, this Slay Girl community of coming together and being and building that community of being able to achieve more, you know, as you have done, Jess, achieving great things and building that brand. But anyway, key points to putting yourself out there and taking that leap. The first thing I want to say is find what you love in your life right now. Do not settle. If you hate your job, fucking leave it. Do what you love. And the second thing about that, my second point is learn everything you can that of your passion. So for me it was fitness, so I learned everything about fitness that I could learn. It took me 2 years to get my pro card. And the third point I have is, as I spoke to you guys about, is my friend Ashley. Surround yourself with people that believe in you and will influence you to do better. Hands up who agrees with that. Thank you. And that's so important, because I think you guys should hear this. You are influenced by the 5 top people in your life. Am I right? So if you have toxic people in your life right now, get rid of them, because they're not doing you any justice. But now going to my third point, which is my biggest point right now, which is do not let your story hold you back. So we're now in 2019. 2018 was a massive year for me as well, because I did win my pro card, but I also went through a massive breakup, which Jess knows, which was a 4-year relationship. And I'm going to backtrack a bit, but I wasn't going to talk about this because I didn't know if I was ready to bring this up. But actually I had a really nice incident a few days ago, which I'll talk about. But in 2018, I went through a breakup, and being the type of person I am, having that mask on, I just went on with life as if nothing had happened. And I ran away to Thailand. I trained in Thailand for months at a time because I wanted to get my pro card. And I had a really small incident that was the tip of the iceberg of what happened as of late. And I wasn't myself. I wasn't acting like myself, and there were these things coming up. So I ended up going to the doctors, who then ended up taking me to the therapist. And in 2018, she had said to me and had diagnosed me with complex post-traumatic stress. And this is only a year ago. And for those of you who don't know what that is, you know, I at the time hadn't understood what that was, because I've heard of post-traumatic stress in the military life. And I thought that was just something that the people in the military life go through. But when you go through complex post-traumatic stress, it's because you've had a series of unstable life and traumatic events throughout your childhood. And it's very common for people who've had a really bad childhood or have gone through divorces or things like that. And that's the things that I've experienced. So imagine being a bikini model, hearing that you've had complex post-traumatic stress and you have 8 weeks to compete in. And they talk about cortisol levels being normal when you're competing. You want to try and stay calm. So when I got told that, I had to make a massive change once again, because, you know, 9 years ago I was off medication, but that wasn't enough. So in 2018, I made 3 massive changes: meditate, journal, and seek help professionally. And that's probably the biggest thing, and the biggest advice I can give to people out there as well. And I wish I could give that advice back to the younger self of me all those years ago, where I kept wearing that mask growing up. Hands up who's connecting with this, by the way. It's really beautiful. Yes, ask me a question.
What was the trigger? Because everyone's got a trigger. What was yours?
So my trigger was, I was seeing someone in Thailand, and out of nowhere, when I got back from Thailand, he had decided to end things. And that trigger was just enough to tip me over the edge. And that's because it was like an abandonment issue thing. If you can think about all those moments in my life where I've had my dad not being there, or, you know, not having that father figure in my life, it was that abandoned issue that caused that tipping point of why that was just that iceberg moment, you know? But, yeah, it's full on.
How did you get there?
How did you get through those moments of
Not knowing why you were experiencing what you were feeling. I know how you were reacting, but what were you feeling?
wait, what do you mean?
like, what were, from the triggers, what were you experiencing? And how did you have to move through it?
How did you?
So I'm quite I'm a very positive person, but it got to the point where I was having a lot of breakdowns. I was very emotional. I wasn't able to get out of bed. And this is only very fresh, so for me to experience something like this and being in the public eye, I felt like I was lying to you guys out there because I was going through this, and I just didn't, exactly, you wouldn't know, because I'm so good at putting that mask on.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From dancing. So but then it got to the point where I couldn't keep doing that, and that was a massive sign for me, because I couldn't get out of bed, and I constantly kept having these breakdowns, and that's why I noticed that something wasn't right, and that's why I went to the doctors about it. But being that third point about do not let your story hold back. If I didn't go through that incident a year ago, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys today sharing this story. And that's what I speak to my TMF Slay girls about, because if I didn't experience complex post-traumatic stress, I wouldn't have gone through all those mindset coaching, journaling, meditation as well, to work on myself, which is so important for us to realize, because being in the fitness industry, it is not about just being physically well, it's about how you feel internally. And that's something I had to learn the hard way myself. And that is why I indent that into my community of girls, that you may feel good on the outside, but how are you feeling on the inside? And I wasn't going to talk about this, but literally about 3 days ago, when I was at Dress for a Night, which is the hire company I got my dress for, this girl came up to me and said, can I say something to you, please? And I was like, oh great, what have I done? It wasn't me. And she said, I watched your video on complex post-traumatic stress, and I didn't realize what I was going through, and watching your video made me then go see a therapist who has now diagnosed me with complex post-traumatic stress too. So she had gone through the same motions of me, and if she hadn't watched my video, she wouldn't have done that for herself. And just to make it even more scary, and how the universe works in mysterious ways, because of that incident, because of that girl speaking to me, I went back to my journal to write about it, and I have a journal from that year, and I looked back on the date, and it is a year from today, the 10th of August, that I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress. It's been a year now since that. And that was my goal, to be able to speak in front of an audience, to share that story, to hope that I inspire you guys to, work on yourself, but also bring out the best version of yourself. And also remember that your story is a version of you, and you should always know that you shouldn't be afraid to speak out. And you should also seek help as well. Do not be afraid to do that. So I want to conclude with the message today is, do not hold back from your story. Do not be afraid to be vulnerable. And that's what 2019 has been about for me. It's about a year of growth and a year of healing. And I've got actually a special gift for everyone in your goodie bags, which is basically just to invite you guys to be part of my TMF Slay Challenge, which is launching in September, and we're opening up in next Monday for everyone that wants to sign up for this challenge. It's not just a challenge about losing weight, it's a challenge about redefining yourself and finding the best version of yourself, and being part of a community where you can share your story and be part of a group of people where you shouldn't be afraid to hide away from the mask that we have put on for so many years, like myself, I've done. So I would love to have you be part of that. And also in November, I have an event coming up too that I would love you guys to be part of, the TMF Slay event as well, which if you sign up to my emails, you'll get more notification on that. But I want to conclude my talk today with one last thing, which is basically just saying, for every shitstorm, for every fucking setback, for every hardship, for every breakup, for every money loss, for anything you've gone through, is a start for something new and a new beginning, to start another journey on your life, to be the best version of yourself, to never give up, and to keep slaying.
Yeah.
Thank you.